lobby. Let's all go to the lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slain, an It Slays podcast production where we review the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
Hey, it's Jill. I'm here.
And tonight we are talking about Night of the Zoopocalypse that came out March 7th, 2025. Jill, before we get started, had you even heard of this movie till I told you had to go see it and review it, or were you just following orders like a good soldier?
Okay, so it's a little bit of A, a little bit of B, because before you first told me about it, before you told me to come on the show or whatever, because you mentioned you and Colton were going to go watch it, but I don't know if Colton was like actually
I was trying
interested.
to convince Colton to go see it. It wasn't really working out too well.
Yeah, so, and you mentioned that it was based off of a Clive Barker short story, and the fact that it's kind of like a family, like, children's spooky movie, and just the title, Night of the Zoopocalypse, giving that zombie vibe. I like spooky things, and I like some things that are spooky that are meant for children or are, family friendly. So I knew like a week before you told me to go watch it, and I was looking forward to it. But what about you? Was it something that you were looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of earmarked this when me and Colton did the 2025 what's coming out in horror. I kind of brought this up at the end of the episode. I don't think Colton had even really looked into it. And I had some curiosity by some of the voice actors I was interested in. I knew it was mostly, but also in tandem with some other places, but a Canadian production. And like you, I'm always interested in kind of horror or gateway horror for kids. And we don't really talk a lot on the main show or even the Now Slains, this kind of thing. I think about, we infamously did Hocus Pocus, and we're probably the only podcast that everyone at that time hated it and thought it was terrible.
Rude.
But yeah, we just really haven't done much. Some Tim Burton stuff we've done, and that's about it, probably towards family friendly type horror. So it's always exciting to talk about it and see what's going on. So before we discuss whether or not the Zoopocalypse was a hit or if it was more of a boo-pocalypse, let's get in the trailer and then we'll be back with our synopsis and spoiler-free review.
Monsters have overrun the zoo.
At this point, the heroes are starving and resort to eating each other. Or we can eat popcorn! Is that food? It is a critical element of the cinema that Xavier has always wanted to try.
Night of the Zoopocalypse is directed by Rodrigo Perez Castro and Ricardo Curtis and written by James Key and Stephen Hoban, and the synopsis is as follows. A wolf and mountain lion team up when a meteor unleashes a virus turning zoo animals into zombies. They join forces with other survivors to rescue the zoo and stop the deranged mutant leader from spreading the virus. So here on Now Slain, we like to start off with our spoiler-free discussion. So, Jill, I think you're number one. I'm usually number two at the worst people to try to keep it spoiler-free. We don't have Colton constrain us, but we will do our best.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if there's anything here to spoil.
I feel like it's going to be a pretty short spoiler-free section, because, yeah, I mean, if you've seen the trailer and the synopsis give you the twists and turns of this, really. So there's no real surprises in this, especially where it's, made for kids. I mean, I'll start by just saying that I will say I thought animation-wise, it was actually a little better than I was suspecting. I wasn't familiar. This is put together by Viva Kids. And I was like, I've never really heard of them. And I was looking, and there's a reason for that. They kind of seem like they're like, I don't know, like the asylum for kids. Like, it seems like they have a lot of movies that are small, independent movies they release, but are kind of based off of bigger movies, and it's just like a ripoff. So I saw they put out, like, you know, there's that big series, like Secret Life of Pets. They put out one that was called, like, Secret Life of Cats. Like, they had, instead of, like, Hotel Transylvania, they had one just called Monster Family, and it was, like, the same concept.
Stop it. I love that. It's like when you have the regular, like, brand name cereal, like Fruit Loops, and then you get the generic store brand where it's, like,
the
loops
no name
of fruit.
Yeah. Loops of fruit. Yeah, exactly. And the only one I really recognized was their newest one, which is called, I think, Hit Pig. And I only know that because I saw the DVD in kind of Walmart and stuff, and I think it played at our theater for like a little bit. But yeah, somehow with all these kind of low budget things, this hit my radar. But like I said, coming into it, I just didn't know what to expect animation wise. I thought the animation was actually, it looked pretty good. Animation can be tough. It can be pretty offensive to the eye. And like, did you enjoy the way it looked?
I did, yeah. I like that the monsters are kind of like this like gummy beast.
Yeah.
Where they're like squishy and like I don't know. I really like the color. It seemed kind of iridescent, like kind of green and purple. It's like really pretty colors. And I think the animation was also done really well.
Yeah.
I thought it looks great. I thought also at times it could get pretty spooky, like, you know, for a children's film with the animation. But I also, as an adult watching it, like, I kind of wish that they went further and made it creepier. I don't know if if that's like wrong of me, but
I can see what you're saying there. Like, I don't know if when you went and saw this, there was like I was actually very surprised. I thought I was going to be the only one that was like seeing this, where it was like an independent movie. I know here at the Cineplexes in Canada during March break, they bring back movies that play all day during March break. And it's like big movies. So like Sonic 3 and like Moana 2, like all these movies that have already come to like video or streaming are back in the theater for kids to go on March break. So I thought for sure, I'm like, this movie that probably no one's ever heard of, I'm going to be the only one there. I was like, people are going to judge me. They're like, what's this, you know, almost 40-year-old man doing at 1:30 in the afternoon? Going to this kid's movie like a creep. And then just to make me even more of a creep, I walk in and like like my theater, there was actually quite a few people there. Like, it was kind of surprised. It seemed like it was a hashtag dad day. It was a lot of dads. It was a lot of dads with their kids. So I thought that was kind of funny. But I did make sure, like, especially with something like where this, I don't have to focus as hard as if I'm watching like some like elaborate A24 movie. So I like to like look around. I was like looking at the kids. All that sounds super creepy, even more creepy than me being there. But I do this with teenagers too when I see, you know, tarot or something like that. Like, because I want to see the reaction for the audience that it's meant for. Because I come in being like, well, I'm not going to be scared and all that. Like, you know, this is just like a rated G movie. So
yeah,
seeing the kids like and how they reacted to it, it's like it was very interesting to watch because most of the kids seemed really into it. Like, they were like on the edge of their seats. And they were just like fixated on the screen, and I heard gasps, and I heard like the kids seemed to really, really enjoy this.
That is really nice to hear. I was gonna ask, like, what was the general reaction from your audience?
Yeah, they seem to generally like it. I accounted that probably about 93% of all fathers there were asleep.
Oh my God.
They were like eyes shut. They were like, this is the one chance I have all day that I can catch some shut eye here. So there was a lot of sleeping parents in this.
I have a confession.
Oh, no.
No. I didn't fall asleep. But I just want to preface this by saying that I went to see this, was it last Saturday?
Yeah.
I went to a matinee, and that was during daylight savings. So I'm a night owl, so I stayed up pretty late anyways. I was up until like 3 a.m., like probably watching something. And then I lost an extra hour, and then I woke up at like 10 for this matinee. So I was pretty tired. So I remember just being like, man, this movie feels like it's so long. And I'm going to fall asleep because I'm so tired. And like you said, it is pretty easy to follow. And I think even just like the name and the basic concept of the movie, like once you know what it's about, you know what's gonna happen. Like the formula is very simple, you know what I mean? Like it's something, and it's also like a familiar type of trope, but it's making it kind of accessible to a younger audience. Like this would be their first like zombie kind of film. You know what I mean? So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely cool just because I didn't really know how they were going to approach like the zombie stuff, and they definitely do it in a way that I didn't expect for like a kid's movie. I kind of agree with you what you were saying about how I really like the coloring in a lot of this. There's a lot of, you know, kind of like neons. We got a lot of like glowing light neon colors. So, you know, that's kind of my vibe. I will say I did also find, because this isn't a long movie, it's only like an hour and 33 minutes or something. I also kind of felt the length in it. I felt like this is a short story by Clive Barker. And, you know, I think what happens more so than not with short stories that get adapted to full length is there usually is a period in it that you're like, oh, okay, this may like, it feels like they're stretching this. And there was a lot of this where I was like, this could be like an episode of a kid's TV show.
Like
and
20 minutes.
Yeah, and it probably would have worked a little better because we're doing like a lot of the same stuff I found. And it was just kind of like repetitive. I will say, one of my main reasons of being interested in this is because like the three main voice actors in it, obviously like top billed is David Harbour, you know, who plays Dan the tiger, and then we have Paul Sun-Hun Lee, who is from like Kim's Convenience.
Mr. Kim.
And then I was most interested because third billing is Scott Thompson from Kids in the Hall. And I was like, oh, that's, you know, this is awesome. And I will say, I kind of felt that like they phoned this one in hard. I was like, they definitely did not pay these guys enough to seem to really care. Like, I thought David Harbour was like, he sounded bored the entire time. And I really didn't like the Scott Thompson performance. I thought it was weird. I mean, you could tell it was him right away, and I could kind of see what he was trying to do, but it just didn't seem, you know, I think great voice acting, like there's always like, a great voice actor like builds a character even through the voice of like a history of the character through like their accents or their tones or whatever, where it just, to me, I found a lot of the voice acting felt very flat for me on this one.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I also think it kind of goes hand in hand, for me at least, with the character development, because like you talked about, this is based on a short story, and stretching this to like, what is it, an hour and a half-ish?
Yeah.
It is a big ask for that. And, you know, and you mentioned your theater, like the audience, like the children being really kind of hooked on it. I watched this in a theater of American children. And I think they were less appreciative of, I don't know. They're also like younger children. They were watching it, but there wasn't a lot of response that I could tell.
Yeah, and see, that's kind of interesting because I also felt that the kids in my audience were pretty young. And I was gonna make the argument about this that I think this probably would work better for younger ages. I feel like
Yeah.
if you were an older kid, you would probably find this kind of boring.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you're onto something there. And also, normally with like really good family movies like Shrek, stuff like that, they always have jokes and like hidden Easter eggs for the parents, right? Who are going to go sit through this. And I did really love them talking about invasion of the body snatchers and like pod people and pod animals and all that kind of stuff. And also, I think there's like some allusions to like Night of the Living Dead.
I counted a lot of horror references in this.
Oh, really? Okay, I was going to say, I wanted more of that. But what did you see?
I'll save it for the spoiler section because
okay.
That's kind of what I had noted for like specific scenes. But I was like, to me, I was actually quite happy with that, and that's when I was most engaged with it. Where I was like, like they're doing this scene, and this is a play off of this horror movie. And I just think it's kind of cool because, I mean, it's funny because like no kid's probably going to get any of those references unless.
Yeah.
They hold this film in high regard as they get older, and then they see other horror movies, and they're like, oh, wait a second. But yeah, once we get in the spoiler section, I'll talk about the references that I saw. A high point of this, I will say, I thought the score was really good throughout this. I thought the music was like creepy. Even like the theme song stuff was like a little bop, and like I was like, this is really good. I got really confused because I was there a little into the credits because I was bopping out to the song, and I was like, I got to see who does all this stuff. And then I saw it said the composer was Dan Levy, and I was like, what? And it's a different Dan Levy. It's just like
like the guy from Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, it's a different guy. It was just a random guy.
I also looked that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I got kind of excited. I'm like multi-talented here, and then it wasn't even him, so it didn't really matter. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's kind of hard to discuss fully and not spoil because so much of it is not shock. Like it's if you've seen the trailer, you kind of find out. So I'm thinking, let's why don't you tell people if you would recommend this? Because then we can kind of get into the spoiler section and we don't have to really worry about it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to hear your list of horror references. I would recommend this to a certain kind of person. Okay? A very specific kind of niche group. So parents of young children and adults, I think, who are also into this sort of thing could find something to like in it, especially if you're going with your children and you're sharing. I think that kind of, if it is their first experience with, a zombie type of, movie, I think it's a fun way to spend an hour and a half, but it's definitely not for everybody. Like, it doesn't get that dark. It doesn't get that scary because it's still, like you said. But yeah, so go see it if it sounds like it's up your alley, or if you have children you want to go see it with. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone else, really. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to give it like a real light recommend. It's kind of like you said to me, if you are, a horror parent and you have like young children, I think this would probably be a cool one to expose them to. Because like we said, I think some of this is pretty scary for young kids. A little more scary than I expected it to be. And there's a lot of cool horror references in there, like for parents. Now, on the other end, like I said, like if you're an almost 40-year-old man, you could probably wait till this like streamed or something. Like, I don't know if I'd rush to the theater to see it just because I think there's better horror movies made for kids than this that I would spend my money on before this. So it's like a light recommend. So yeah, that's like a decent recommend and a light recommend from me and Jill. So why don't we cut over to the spoiler section so we can spoil this film. So we are now in the spoiler section for Night of the Zoopocalypse. And if you haven't seen Night of the Zoopocalypse, this is the time you should shut it off now, go see the movie, and then come back after and get all those leaks that we're gonna talk about. So yeah, I said I was going to talk about the references that I picked up. So one of my favorite ones is I picked up was when our two protagonists are on top of like the ski lift thing, and we have like the mutant zombie gorilla on top there. I thought there was some very and who knows, like maybe this it isn't the case, but they show them screaming when the gorilla comes up, and they the background goes solid. And to me, I was like, there's no way this isn't a callback to Creepshow of like when people are screaming and then the background kind of like turns into a solid color. Cause like the sky was just like solid pink. And the way they shot the animation, I was like, it really, really reminds me of Creepshow. So I had that one down. There was a blatant one when the gorilla merges with the giraffe. And then we kind of get the shout out to Aliens because his like head opens up and then the giraffe's head comes up.
Yes. I thought about that too.
And it's like multiple mouths coming out. And I was, and it's even like skinny like the alien mouth.
True.
So that one, of course, I was super pumped about that one. And then I thought there was a lot of influence of John Carpenter's The Thing in this, because we have these body parts that even when they're broken apart, they then grow legs or they merge with other things. And there's like The Thing body horror, body mutation kind of Cronenberg-ness going on to it.
And a wolf,
yeah. and I thought those were pretty cool call outs if they are.
You know what? Actually, I also thought like in the like building they were in, like through the kind of like tunnels, also reminded me of like the like station I guess they're in the thing.
Yeah.
Also Alien.
Yeah, I thought Alien on that stuff too.
Yeah. And stuff coming through pipes.
Yeah. I mean, very, very Aliens there. And this was like kind of my issue with it, was that I thought those were cool, and that shows me like there's a love for the genre and they're referencing this stuff, but I just thought like so much of the script like was so flat, and like to me this would be like, I probably put this up for like maybe AI wrote this. Like I was just like, there's nothing exciting about this script. It was very like the most basic paint by number, which I get. Like I think this is aimed at young kids, so I can see this being intriguing for young kids, but to me, like, you talk about Shrek, you talk about this stuff, like the thing that makes those like so great is that they're actually not really dumbed down. Like they're actually pretty complicated storylines and like great dialogue, where like this to me is just like something I'd expect to see like Netflix make for, preschoolers or something.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's very safe, but also very bland. But it had like the capacity to be way cooler than it was. It could have been a little bit edgier, maybe, or just like more complex. Like, have something in there intelligent for the adults. Have something in there that's an Easter egg for the adults, or something that's funny or smart. And like you said, and I couldn't like really get attached to the characters because of that, especially Gracie, like the main character.
Yeah.
I didn't really care for her all that much.
No, Gracie was kind of annoying, but that was kind of the thing with all of it. Like even Dan.
Yeah, everyone's annoying.
And like everyone was just kind of like bland and annoying. I thought the zombie look was cool, the animals and like how they glow and they're gummy and all this stuff. But even them, like I thought was like they were generally not used well, and they were like uninteresting. There was never a scene where they were attacking the animals in the zoo that I was like, oh, this is wild. Like, I was just like, this seems to have zero stakes.
Yeah.
It's just like the same stuff again and again.
Well, it was like really safe because once you find out that, no one actually is going to die, they're all going to come back out of this like slimy mutated monster, then, like you said, all the stakes go out the window.
You alluded to it in the spoiler-free section, which I do agree. Like, I was surprised that it kind of went full out zombie, and the fact like the animals basically had to bite each other to like turn them. I thought for sure they would have done something else so it wasn't like a bite or anything like that. Like, I thought they just have to touch them or something.
But they went there.
So I thought that was cool. And like I said, I can't stress enough, like, I really did think that the look of the zombies or whatever they want to call them, like, I thought they looked cool. They had like the big teeth and they're drooling and like they do have a cool, like, scary look. And like, especially once we get past the bunny, who's like kind of the leader, like, I thought when they're in those tunnels, and I don't know what it is, like antelope or like it's like some other animal that like was actually, I thought, like pretty creepy and was just like chasing them through the tunnels. Like, I was like, oh yeah, these are like a cool concept and a cool design.
I like that very much too. Like, visually it was really nice because it was creepy but also kind of beautiful at the same time with like the colors, and they kind of glittered a little bit, but also just like a weird, like, not right, something is not right about the combination of all the body parts. I did like the cute like little bunny and the cute like pygmy hippo, but I feel like they did really heavily rely on the pygmy hippo for the cuteness factor, or
Poot
or being funny.
And Poot was like a one-trick pony. Like, there was only really like one joke to Poot. So, unfortunately,
he got dragged through it.
Well, and I just like, there were some choices that I thought were weird, like, other than Gracie and Poot and Dan, like, the rest of the animals were just all kind of dicks.
The capybara.
Just like everyone, like, and I get, like, just like, an adult zombie movie, there's like a faction of people that are like all about themselves and they don't care about anyone else. But it just like, I don't know, it just had like a weird tone to me that I was like, oh, okay, like, so only like 2 of these characters in this movie are like actually like nice or friendly or anything. And like the rest of the animals are just kind of dicks. And
they are.
But it was like, there was never like a payoff I found to it. Like, even what they made feel is a payoff. Like, I was just like, not only are they dicks, but they're dicks, and there's no punchline. There's no like overall reason for them to be, nor
growth.
Like, there's no growth at all I'd argue with any of these people, really, because, they make Dan seem like, all he cares about is being in the wild and eating other animals, and he's a wild man, you can't be tamed. But, I mean, I don't know, Dan was, they were just assumed that about him, and he didn't really grow. I think he was the same. They just assumed that. And like you said, it's just like no one really had any growth. Like, Gracie at the end was the same as she was in the beginning. There wasn't really any like lesson she learned doing this, other than like, she was right. She had to, switch it up and have some different moves than what her granny taught her and all this stuff. So I just thought, I thought some of the character work was like a little bland. And that's also where I felt the movie dragged, was whenever we're like dealing with like Ash or any of these other characters that isn't with our main protagonists, is I was just like, okay, like this stuff isn't interesting, nor is it really doing a good job. What did you think about like the way to get rid of the disease was just like soap and water? and music.
I actually liked the fake out of the soap and water, and I think it was pretty fitting for a children's movie for the solution to be something as joyful and simple as music, and easy for them to do with their little, I don't know, animatronic musical they got going on at the zoo.
Yeah, a little Five Nights at Freddy's going on here. We got the animatronics.
Exactly. So I thought it was appropriate. But yeah, the movie just dragged for me, man. And I don't know. I feel like they could have also taken a leaf out of Zootopia's book, because that's another similar movie. But I think it was more successful because it appeals to a wider audience.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you need to do. I know not everything needs to be targeted towards everyone, but if you're gonna be in a movie theater, you kind of want to attract more than just children.
You need to make sure the parents are entertained too, so that
exactly
they buy the movie for their kids, or make the kids watch the movie over and over again.
Yeah. And I don't want to sound like a dick for saying these things about a children's movie. I get it. It's not that serious. But I think it could be improved by, honing in on those sort of things.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that.
You were talking about the animals being dicks. Did you also notice the prevalence of dick-shaped noses on the animals?
I didn't, but that's an interesting fact that only I would expect you to point out.
Just saying.
Do you think it's purposeful? It's it's like the Disney subliminal thing where people are putting dicks into the cover art.
I was just so disturbed by Grandma Abigail because of her droopy, floppy, flaccid, phallic shaped nose. And there's another one too, but that's the one that really disturbed me.
I like just thinking about you seeing this movie and everyone oh my god.
It has a wart on it or something. I don't know. It's grody. Look it up.
So yeah, with that, let's land the plane and we will get into rating this. Our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Jill, what would you give Night of the Zoopocalypse? Okay,
I am going to give Night of the Zoopocalypse an okay. I think it's pretty innocuous. It's a entry level horror movie that you can bring your kids to the theater to watch, and I think there's something that most parents could get out of this or appreciate, just the art style or something like that, or the references that as a horror fan you might pick up. And I think it's a good introduction to that sort of thing. So, it's fine. There's nothing totally wrong with it. It just probably won't be one that I watch again anytime soon unless I pop out a kid. Rowan, how do you rate it?
Yeah, I'm, as excited as I was because, as we keep saying, this is based off a Clive Barker short story. I don't know if we mentioned, but the short story was aimed at adults. It wasn't a kid's story. Mm-hmm. They just converted it to this kid's story. Yeah, I thought it was just pretty inoffensive and bland. I did like some of the references. I thought it looked pretty good, but unfortunately I didn't think any of the actors really showed up. This seemed like a paycheck job, and the voice acting fell real flat. But with that, I think kids don't overly care about that, and
true.
I do think this would be a really good movie for a gateway horror, especially I'm thinking 6 or under. For someone around that age, and as I also said, the kids in my theater seemed to really enjoy it, and were really kind of hanging on to every beat that was going on in this movie. So I think I'm going to also give it a pretty light okay. I think I think there's probably stuff more offensive, but it's not amazing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, 2 okays for Night of the Zoopocalypse. So with that, if you're not already doing so, you can follow us on any of our social media at It Slays Podcast. We're on Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, Letterboxd, TikTok, Bluesky, Threads. You can find us... Not X. You can find us on X, but we're not posting on there anymore, so not on X. That's okay. We're getting lots of people interacting on Blue Sky, so come on over to Blue Sky with the rest of us. But yeah, you can follow us there at It Slays Podcast, and or wherever you find any social media, we'll be there. And Jill, why don't you tell the lovely people about our Patreon?
I will, but I was just thinking, I think this movie needed more Cenobites, and that's really our
more
issue.
Leather. That's really
more
what it
leather,
was.
More pain, more suffering. If you want to join the ranks of our horror hounds like Holly, Nicholas, Mark, Sacrotype, Dan, Brian, Trevor, and James, head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose the tier that works for you. Perks include early access to episodes of this main show and access to our Patreon exclusive show, Stream Screams, hosted by Rowan and I, as well as the ability to pick a movie for us to review. Rowan, any tunes from this one making it to the spooky playlist?
You know what? If I can find kind of the score, I'd love to add some stuff on the playlist. Because like I said, I thought probably the strongest part of this movie was the score. The score was actually kind of a bop and really strong. So if I do find it, you can find that over at the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist on Spotify. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media that I just mentioned. Go in the bio, click the Linktree link. It'll take you directly there. We upload scores or licensed music from horror movies we review, horror movies we love, or just iconic horror movies in general. So follow the playlist. We update it regularly and get your spooky music on, because why the hell not? And from there, so our next episode, I believe, is gonna be The Woman in the Yard, which is Blumhouse's new horror film that I'm kind of interested in.
Oh, I am too, actually. I saw the trailer for that and I was like, okay.
Yeah, well, and if Colton gets too busy with work, then we'll have to hold it down. But I think that is the next one, unless something really jumps out and pops up at us, from a streaming aspect or something like that. But I believe it'll be The Woman in the Yard. So yeah, check back then, and we will be back in your eardrums. As always, thank you for all the support. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Jill.
And if you keep listening, we'll keep slaying.